Okay, we are in the heat of summertime and people are trying to get out of where they currently are into a new place. 10 things you gotta know before you make Virginia the next place that you live. Let's go. What's up everybody, Moki here. Welcome to the channel. Your first time here, so glad to have you. You've been here before. Hold on, we're gonna get right into it. Remind you, your phone's your friend. Hit your boy up. Today we're talking about Virginia, but I got your back. If you're thinking about anything you wanna do, moving real estate wise to Virginia, Northern Virginia, I got your back. So today we're talking about the top 10 things that you gotta know about moving to Virginia. A couple videos ago, I talked about the difference between Virginia versus Northern Virginia. And although there are differences for sure, in general, the state of Virginia has a lot of similarities that whether you live in Northern Virginia, whether you live down in Roanoke or in the middle, you can bet that the generalities will be the same. It's just gonna be a matter of degree higher or lower. So let's get right into it with number 10. Virginia is growing. Virginia is a fast growing country, ranked in the top 20, specifically ranked 13th in the country for growth and 12th in the country for population. Virginia is a place to be. A lot of folks talk about the migration, like out-migration for Virginia, which has increased in the last few years for sure. But in general, people do want to move here. And especially with all of the tech jobs, with data centers, with Amazon doing their thing, bringing up all these HQs into Arlington, Crystal City. This is a place that is bringing in a lot of attention and a lot of people. Which brings me to number 9. Virginia has a thriving economy. Now, when I mentioned Amazon and all that data centers, I mean, it's more specific to Northern Virginia than to the rest of Virginia, but overall the economy is thriving. Virginia is ranked 13th among state economies in the U.S. News and World Report. In more detail, Virginia is ranked 24th in growth, is ranked number 5 in employment, number 14 in business environment, and a job growth of an average of 1.8%, which is higher than the national average of 1.4%. So Virginia's got a whole bunch of people that live here, and then it's also got a whole bunch of jobs and a whole bunch of people that can work these jobs here, not only in Northern Virginia, but in the whole state. So not only does Virginia have a whole bunch of people, not only do we have a ton of jobs, a thriving economy, what all this does is it helps, and this is number 8, a thriving economy means that you have the opportunity for a great education. So this is education straight from elementary all the way up to high school and post-secondary education. With 5 Northern Virginia school districts in the top 10 school districts in Virginia, whether your child is going into private education or public education, there is a high potential for a high quality education. And one of the ways that we rank education outcomes is through graduation rates, SAT scores, college readiness. All of these are high markers all across the board. And so it just is a matter of making sure that your child has the opportunities that are specific and most relevant to them. And the cool thing about Virginia is that there is a county in both public and private education is that you've got the opportunities to explore all of that. Now, college is not for everybody, but if you do want to go to college, we have 3 of the top 3 schools in the top 40 in the entire country, with Virginia Tech, the College of William & Mary, and the University of Virginia. And not only that, these big old schools, great reputations, great schools, great programs. We also have George Mason University, you got James Madison University, Georgetown. Well, Georgetown's in D.C. Well, sort of. Well, it's in D.C., but it's close enough to Virginia that came to mind. But all that's to say is that you have great options, and especially if those schools are in here and you live here, your child gets a significant break in the tuition and board by having in-state tuition as opposed to out-of-state tuition. Okay, number 7. Now, every place you live is gonna have pros and cons. Same way here. Number 7 is this. The traffic is, whether you live in Northern Virginia or just anywhere in Virginia, the traffic's gonna be rough. And I think I talk about the traffic in every single video I've ever made about Northern Virginia. I think I've mentioned traffic at least one time. And this is one of them too. Now, do you remember, it was during the winter time, there was this crazy storm and I-95 shut down. I mean, there was no movement in like on those lanes. A bunch of trucks got derailed, and it was so bad that, and it's especially because it's wintertime and people gotta, no one wants to freeze to death. People's cars were running out of gas. Electric vehicles were running, their batteries were dying, so they were literally stranded on the highway because of this mayhem. Now, I've lived in a bunch of major cities, a bunch of different places. I've lived here. I've lived in Massachusetts. I've lived all over. I've even lived across the world, and there's just something unique about the traffic here that just is frustrating in its own way. The thing is that everybody learns how to live with it, but at the same time, but if you're not used to it, it can be a major learning curve. So just recognize that's something that you got to prepare for, is that the traffic can be real bad. The tolls help a little bit, but they can also get pretty expensive if you're gunning back and forth all the time. If you're using the greenway, that's going to be it's going to kind of cost you. If you're using the express lanes, on 495, 66, all that, those are going to run up, and especially on 66, that can run up so high and so bad. So it's not all bad, but it is something that you got to get used to. Number 6, remember all that stuff I was talking about, economies and thriving? Healthcare. Virginia has some of the best healthcare in the country. In fact, the U.S. News and World Report ranked the University of Virginia Medical Center as the #1 hospital in Virginia for the past 5 years. Both Centara General Hospital, which specializes in cardiology, and Inova Fairfax Hospital have been nationally recognized and ranked for years on end. So you're guaranteed excellent healthcare, both if you go to a hospital or you go to private practices. I myself, y'all probably noticed in the last few years, I had a nice little splint right here. I got jammed up my own, it was my own fault, so I got nobody to blame, but got a nice little surgery, got a nice little scar, got some good old scar tissue, and I was able to get taken care of, one at Inova, and then I got to a private orthopedic surgeon, and I was able to get surgery within 3 days of seeing the surgeon. So healthcare is great. I can personally attest, my wife can personally attest, my family can personally attest, and everybody who's been around can attest. Now, the thing about healthcare is that whether it's high quality or not, is that you always got to do your due diligence about your healthcare costs, whether it's subsidized through your employer, your own private insurance, or whatever. Just make sure you always have in mind your information, got your ducks in a row. That's going to make your experience a whole lot better. Whether your healthcare experience is good or not, them bills are gonna really change your experience. So make sure that you get yourself taken care of, and also make sure that your bills are also taken care of. Number 5, we're talking about nature. Virginia is so cool because, one, it's on the east, it's a coastal state. So you're right on the coast. So you've got the beach, which is one thing that's super cool about Virginia, is you got the beach. So if that's your jam, you've got Virginia Beach, Colonial Beach, Sandbridge Beach. You've got Chesapeake. All of those places get you that night, that as some people have called it, it's the California, on a budget. Now, whether that's the case or not, you just have access to that there. Another thing that Virginia offers, which is awesome, is the mountains, with the Appalachian Trail, the Shenandoah National Park, the Blue Ridge Parkway. If the mountain scene is your jam, this is the place for you. And along with the mountains and the beach, Virginia is also known as the original wine country in America. With over 300 wineries in the state of Virginia, we're known for award-winning wineries such as the Stone Tower Winery and the Chateau Morset, which will certainly become one of your new favorites if you decide to come and check this place out. Number 4, now this phrase is iconic. Most of you have heard it. If you have not, no problem, no big deal. This is a no judgment zone. Virginia is for lovers. Now, where does that phrase come from? It's so iconic. A lot of people believe that it came from the famous court case Loving versus the state of Virginia, which finally legalized interracial marriage in Virginia. That's a really awesome piece of history. And that's not the only piece of history in Virginia that you would be able to enjoy and appreciate. And so Virginia is a state that also is rich in history all the way from the bottom all the way to the top. And this is history all the way from colonial times, all the way to the Civil War, all the way to the Reconstruction era, and even to the present day. There is history happening all over the place. So this is, if you are a history buff and this is the thing, this is something that excites you, this is the place to be. Number 3, hey, remember earlier on I was talking about Georgetown University when I'm confusing DC with Virginia? Well, hey, that is the number 3 thing, is that we are so close to Washington D.C. Now, proximity to DC gives you a number of privileges, not only that come financially and economically, but you've got nightlife, you've got the museums in DC, you've got access to history, you've got access to government, the public transportation. It's expensive just like everything else, but it is nonetheless reliable, and it's accessible the closer that you get to DC. So if you're somebody who is really keen on urban living, on being close to a metro center, you can live in Virginia and be super close to that. The cool thing about DC is that Arlington and Alexandria, you've got these cities that are right next to it that are so close that they might as well be in DC, and they give you an option where you can live close to DC and have all the access to the amenities, to the entertainment, to the jobs, without having to live in the high price tags of Washington DC itself. And speaking of high price tags, this is one of the cons of living in Virginia is the cost of living. Again, just like traffic, I mention this all the time, is that Virginia is one of the more expensive states to live in the country, and Northern Virginia is one of the more expensive places to live in the country inside of Virginia. One of the big expenses that makes this situation happen is real estate, as we've all seen. The market is shifting, but it is shifting very slowly, which means that you're not gonna see any discounts or anything crazy like that, but prices are high. Good thing though is that there are so many different places in Virginia that you could live based on what you want. And with remote work, telework, hybrid work, a lot of people are taking advantage of living in more affordable places, cities, and locations in Virginia, because they now don't have to be tied into a certain location because of work or whatever you want to call it. Now we come to the end. Number 1, property appreciation. Hey, this is a real estate channel. How can the best thing not be about real estate? One of the things about Virginia is that it is a stable real estate market, in large part because of its proximity to Washington D.C. Check this out. This is the total appreciation for properties since the year 2000, and this is the annualized rate of return. If you look at, obviously it's an anomaly between the last 3 years or so, but in general you're getting appreciation between 4 and 6-7%. So if you bought a home in the year 2000, your property value would have increased by 150%. So appreciation is great. It seems like a small number with 4, 6, 5, 8%, but this is compound interest. And as we know about compound interest that we learned from our homeboy Warren Buffett, is that it compounds. And what seems like a small increase today, over time is a massive increase. So it is a long play, it is a long game, but as I've mentioned in other videos before, in real estate, you win when you buy. In investing, America is made so that you buy a whole bunch. And the more you buy, the more you win. Now, it's not to say that you have to buy everything all at once today, but if you're thinking about buying your first home, think very wisely and think very strategically about how you can make it a play that allows you to take advantage of the appreciation rates and the appreciation and the property value increases in this area. So that's all I got. That's the top 10 things you got to know about Virginia before you move here. Subscribe to this channel if this is your jam. Always looking for new members, always excited to grow the team. Contact me below, you got my information. Get your Homebuyer Pro Kit in the description before you jump up out of here. Hit me up, I got your back. Anything you ever want to know about Northern Virginia, I am here for you. Until next time, peace.